Okay, so one of the main points our opponents bring up about cap and trade is that it will benefit the environment. And one example they used was the acid rain program, the first guy did. And he said that it was the successful U.S. program. However, there's been many other cap and trade programs besides that have failed in the U.S. But just to start with the acid rain program, and the thing that sets that apart from the current cap and trade legislation is that there is no offsets, and with the current plan there'd be up to 27% offsets. And I don't know if you understand what the offsets are, but it allows us to make the same amount of emissions and then buy permits from other certified countries, saying that that balances out the emissions we're making. So while that's not reducing it, it's also a popular opposition to these offsets is that there's no way to accurately measure the amount of carbon emission offset they're creating. And what one source says, Tamara Gilbertson and Oscar Reyes in their book Carbon Trading, How It Works and Why It Fails, they say that because the current plan for cap and trade in the U.S. is 27% offsets, that could help the U.S. to avoid actually reducing emissions up till 2026. And also, just an analogy, the UK House of Commons Environmental Audit Committee made was that one popular way to make these offsets is through wind turbines. And they said wind turbines will give access to electricity that gives access to television, that gives access to adverts that sell scooters, and entrepreneurs sets up a petrol depot for the scooters. And the point is that they're making these wind turbines, but that actually results later on in more carbon emissions and other harmful gases. And saying that they won't is like saying that the Wright brothers were able to get together and discuss that in 2009 the different jet systems and how the internet will be working to facilitate that. So the biggest problem I found with this cap and trade program is the offsets, because it's not really reducing emissions at all. It's allowing for the same amount of emissions while just saying that somehow these wind power plants and other systems will reduce it, or balance it out, I mean. And then also the economic disadvantages that are brought up by this cap and trade program are pretty drastic. And the NEMS, it's a national economic modeling system. It's through the government, so it's bipartisan. And what they predict from looking at the cap and trade program is that California stands to lose anywhere from 130,000 to 195,000 jobs in 2020, and up to 300 to 400,000 in 2030. And that's mostly in lower industry due to the caps on just industry and energy companies. And this will lead to a decrease in disposable household income, and as well as gas prices would increase by 72% to 150%, they say. And the gross state product of California stands to lose 20 to 27 billion by 2020. And they also applied this to the U.S. And I won't repeat it, but they just said many jobs would be lost, and that's with the green jobs included. And then to compare the EU, European Union emissions trading system, to say that the first phase was a trial and error kind of thing. Well, all it was error. It crashed in 2006 because many more permits were given out than there's actual pollution. And then as Ibrahim said, even in the second phase, there's been many more permits. No, in the second phase, they're still not reducing the emissions to the goal they stated because of the offsets. When you take off the offsets, they actually have more emissions than they said they'd reduce it to. And then to repeat what Ibrahim said, that cap and trade will actually hurt the environment. Larry Lohman, the author and founding member of Durban Group for Climate Justice, he's an opponent of cap and trade. He says it's a lose-lose situation, as these industries will be discouraged from switching to these alternative energies and other technology, as the offsets provide a more costly, effective way for the company. And they're the ones that are going to be able to delay their actions because of that. And also Alan Zabel and Lori Williams, they're two environmental enforcement attorneys within the EPA, and the EPA fully supports this cap and trade program. The two of these attorneys, they can't accept it. They say that despite the best intentions of it, the bill features unprovable offsets and new coal-fired power plants without, never mind. You can still make these coal power plants because of the offsets, and as so, these provisions would disable our ability to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for at least a decade, after which the risk of irreversible climate change will be hugely increased. And also, Dr. Margot Thorning, she was a senior vice president of and chief economist of the American Council for Capital Formation. She was on a committee for the bill, the testimony I mean, and she said even though the goal of the cap and trade program is to reduce greenhouse gases overall, that the Council of Economic Advisors report to the President said that there will be virtually no environmental benefits unless developing countries participate as well, and that the global concentrations of CO2 in 2100 will be almost unaffected by U.S. emission reductions unless the developing countries participate. So while I'm not saying that we shouldn't do anything about it, that this program really won't affect the climate at all. And that's it.